Welcome to episode 3 of the Play Action Podcast presented by Warrior Student Media. I'm Brandon Smith and joined by my co-host TJ Hawes.
What's up, guys?
And for starters, we are going to jump into the Week 8 NFL preview with the San Francisco 49ers at the Chicago Bears. I personally have the Bears winning this one just because San Francisco could be missing some key players. George Kittle is still out. And Deebo Samuel might not play. He didn't practice on Wednesday. And I think, with the Bears, other than Khalil Mack and their whole COVID situation, they're pretty healthy. And David Montgomery, I should say. But, Khalil Herbert's been a nice surprise at the running back spot, which we saw coming. And like we said last week, he gave the Buccaneers a tough time on the ground, even though they lost 38-3. But like I said, he still gave them a tough challenge. With the Niners, they've been running with Elijah Mitchell mainly when they're running the ball. But I think the Bears are going to be able to pull this one out. I mean, it's nothing. It's not going to be a very good game because
I don't think so.
Both offenses are pretty lackluster right now.
Oh, I completely agree. But I'm going to flip it on you, and I'm going to say San Francisco wins this one. I do think it's going to be a pretty close game. Like you said, this 49ers team is banged up.
It could be like a 13-10 type of score.
Honestly, yeah, this is going to be a defensive-heavy game. I mean, this defense for the 49ers hasn't been great. But, I mean, we've seen good play out of guys like Fred Warner and Nick Bosa like we do every year for them, every week, every year for them. This offense is really going to have to step up, especially this offensive line. Guys like Alex Mack suck on this offensive line, and they're going to need to step up against a solid Bears defense. But I think the loss of Khalil Mack, and I don't know, is Robert Quinn coming back?
He could.
There's a chance. So there's still a chance he's out, right?
So, yeah.
So the loss of Khalil Mack and possible loss of Robert Quinn is really going to ease off the pressure for this 49ers offensive line. And then there's been a lot of disappointments on this Bears offense too. I mean, Khalil Herbert's been great. Don't get me wrong. Allen Robinson, pretty bad. A bunch of Bears fans, even myself, were saying, bring him back, sign him on a big contract. He ended up signing on this franchise tag, and he's been very poor.
Yeah.
This whole receiving core, outside of probably just Darnell Mooney, has been pretty poor.
And he had his worst game of the week against the Buccaneers. He accounted for 2 of Fields. No, at least one, I'd say, because I know one definitely hit him in the hands. But I'm looking now at the 49ers injury report. D Ford has a concussion and he's not practicing. Maurice Hurst is out for this week. Javon Kinlaw is out for the year. Deebo Samuel didn't practice. Jaquiski Tartt didn't practice, and neither did Trent Williams.
Yeah, so they're going to need a bunch of guys to step up if they really want to make this a consistent game.
Yeah, and the notable thing that happened was Trey Lance came back to practice, and I think if we keep seeing Garoppolo not being able to consistently move the football, they could throw Trey Lance in, and not just in a package role. They could throw him in
whole series
for a whole series, and if it works, just keep him going.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Is I definitely think Garoppolo does get benched
at some point.
Yeah, and with the Bears news as of recently, which we'll get into in a little bit, so I'm not going to say too much yet. But with all that, I think that can cause a lot of internal issues.
Yeah, and Nagy's out with COVID.
And Nagy's out with COVID, which, take it how you want. Honestly, he hasn't been play calling, but he won't be there. So it does. I don't think it really affects him too much right now. But
yeah, and I think when it comes to if he's going to play or if he's going to coach or not, what also matters is the fact that he wasn't at practice this week, and the week of preparation was just different than what it usually is. So. I think the Bears win this one. You'd think the 49ers. It could go either way. Now let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. The Browns they're kind of beat up. Baker limited in practice. And it's just a lot of it's not just their offense, it's their defense too. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, he's hurt. Denzel Ward is hurt.
Jadeveon Clowney's injured, who is I'd say one of the biggest reasons why Myles Garrett's playing as well is because he actually has help on the other side this year.
Yeah.
And he's injured too.
But I think the Browns are going to win this game, but just because we don't know what Big Ben's going to show up every week. The Browns are the safe pick for this game. Like I said, because Big Ben, he's had his fair share of good games, but he's also had games where he's literally falling over trying to run to the right. So I think Browns win this one. It's going to be a good game, though.
That happened one time, okay? But seriously, I don't think there is a safe pick. This is going to be a close game from start to finish. Steelers are 3-3. The Browns are 4-3, and that's only because the Steelers just had a bye week. I think these are two really closely matched teams. The Browns, again, are full of injuries to the defense and the offense. Baker probably won't play. Nick Chubb won't be 100%. Half the offensive line is questionable for this game.
I mean, who said it's a bad thing if Baker doesn't play?
That's a good point. They did win with Case Keenum and the practice squad last week. So you aren't wrong there. Big Ben has been improving every week, though. We're utilizing Najee Harris a lot better than we should have been in the past. He's our lead reception, or he leads our offense in receptions, is what I'm trying to say. And that's big. And just like Juju said last year, the Browns are the Browns. So I'm taking Pittsburgh for this game. But I can't lie, it will be very close. It could be coming down to like a game-winning field goal, if anything, or a go-ahead touchdown drive.
I think the Steelers could win.
I definitely think this is a close game. If the Browns win, I won't be surprised.
No.
But if the Steelers win, again, also won't be surprised. It's not. These are both two. I'm honestly going to say evenly matched teams. I don't think people aren't ready to realize that yet, though, because the Browns were so hyped going into the season. They were losing games even before injuries started. It's not like
they lost to the Chiefs and they lost to. Who else did they lose to?
They lost to the Chiefs week 1, and remember the Chiefs. Look at the Chiefs record right now. Are they 3-4? Are they 3-4?
Yep. Chiefs are 3-4.
My point. They're losing the teams that aren't that great.
Chiefs were playing better at that point, though. So
that is true, but even then they weren't playing nearly to their last year's selves.
No.
So this will be a close game. I'm taking Pittsburgh, though.
We're gonna move on to the New England Patriots at the LA Chargers. I think after last year's game between these two teams, the Patriots came to LA and absolutely smoked the Chargers 45-0. And that was, oddly enough, it was mainly a special teams game. They took back a kick, I think, and they took back like a blocked punt right before halftime or a blocked field goal.
So that was I can't pronounce his last name, but Gunnar Onzlu.
Yeah,
that was like his standout game.
Yeah, Gunnar Olszewski.
That's how you pronounce it.
But I think Justin Herbert is still playing really well, even though they got shut down by the Ravens a couple weeks ago, which was last time they played. I think the Chargers are probably going to win this game because they're probably out for revenge against the Patriots.
This is going to be a very solid game matchup against two very young quarterbacks. Both teams aren't bad. Obviously, both are second in their divisions, I want to add, but New England is 3-4 and the Chargers are 4-2.
Yeah. So
these teams are definitely more spread apart, but
the Chargers and Patriots aren't on the same level. The Chargers are better.
Oh, I completely agree. And I do like the idea of the Chargers coming back and taking revenge for last year. But to be fair, even though the Patriots did go into LA, anytime you play the Chargers in LA, it's basically like a home game for you.
That's true.
I'm telling you, every time I've seen a Chargers home game, there are more fans of the away team than the home team. And I don't know why that is. Because if it's like the Rams, there's a bunch of Rams fans.
Chargers just don't have the same marketability or something like that.
But I think that this is the year where that changes, obviously. I think Herbert's going to go off. And
Herbert's awesome.
This is a solid offense. Offensive line's been really good.
Yeah, and Corey Linsley and Rashawn Slater have been the two main standouts.
Yeah, of course. And Matt Filer's been even an underrated guard for this year. He played well for Pittsburgh last year. And he's continuing that on to this year with the Chargers.
Sure, the Steelers wish they could have kept him.
Trust me, I do. That's who I was wanting to keep. Yeah, but this defense too, very solid. I'm expecting a great game from Asante Samuel. He should be able to hopefully pick apart Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Because that's what he's best at, is playing in that off coverage and, keeping his eyes on the quarterback. And I think going against a rookie quarterback, he's going to be able to make plays.
Asante Samuel's also a rookie. So
that is true, but I mean, I try to think of the positives and negatives. Rookie quarterbacks tend to stare down their first reads so often, and I understand maybe later in the season Mac Jones won't do it as much, but we're still early on, and I think we're going to see that every once in a while, and I'm willing to bet Asante Samuel takes advantage of it.
Yeah. We're going to go to the Tampa Bay Bucks at the New Orleans Saints. Only the second game this year where the Saints playing at the Superdome.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even realize
after the Giants game where the Giants beat them. Now, I think the Bucks are going to win this game just pretty handily.
Yeah, I agree.
Good old Jameis revenge game, but
that's true. I didn't even realize that.
Good old Jameis revenge game,
sir.
But the Saints just don't have any firepower on offense. They did just trade for Mark Ingram.
He's gonna have a good game. I'm telling you now.
Yeah, and and it's not like they're just trading for him to reunite him with Alvin Kamara and some of his old friends. He's actually going to be an important player for that offense because you use Alvin Kamara a lot in the passing game, especially with Michael Thomas out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think Mark Ingram's going to have to. He's the in between the tackles runner for this team now, and the power back.
As you're adding Ingram really opens up this playbook because now what the Saints can do is kind of utilize Kamara like the Steelers would utilize Le'Veon Bell, or like how the Panthers would utilize McCaffrey by putting him in the slot. Let him run those small crossing routes, and then put a back, like a legitimate
or like a swing route in the backfield.
Exactly, and then you can still have that running back in the middle. So they have two guys to worry about now. Either someone who's going to catch the ball and run to the outside, or down the middle, like you said, in between the tackles runner, which is what Mark Ingram has consistently been great at.
Yeah, but I think the Bucs win this game just because they like same thing with the Bears last week. They're so much better in every position.
I was gonna say it's simple. They're the better team.
Yeah, maybe the Saints don't have a chance in this one, in my opinion. I mean, other than the fact that they're at home, that might help a little bit. But the Bucs are.
Yeah,
Bucs is top matchup.
Yeah, the thing that I usually come to when it comes to Bucs games is, their weak spot is their cornerback group. The whole secondary as a whole, you could say, but specifically their cornerback.
Richard Sherman might be back this week.
But I mean, even so, you still have Sean Murphy-Bunting and Carlton Davis, two of your top three starters out.
Yeah.
On IR. But I usually go to that and be like, okay, so these receivers need to step up, but these receivers aren't good themselves.
Yeah, Kevin White got 50% of the snaps last week, so
that is saying something because
he's not good.
Don't remember the last time he's even been on a team and playing. So, and this is an easy win for the Bucs. I know, but I could an upset. I'd be happy with. I'd love to see Winston play Tampa Bay and win.
That would be pretty cool. We're going to go to the Sunday Night Football game, the Dallas Cowboys at the Minnesota Vikings. And the big question mark in this game is what is going to happen with Dak. Is he going to play or not? Because he's still dealing with that calf injury that he had, or that he suffered on the final play of the Patriots game where he threw the touchdown to CeeDee Lamb. But I think the Cowboys win this game. It's important for the Vikings, too, because
of course.
Because Vikings are kind of in the same range with the Panthers, the Saints even, the Bears, kind of in that 7 seed range.
Yeah.
You're trying to make that, because you kind of know who 5 of the playoff teams are going to be. You got the 4 division leaders and then the Rams.
Yep, exactly.
So it's a kind of a dogfight for those last 2 spots between, I think, the Vikings, the Saints, the Bears, and the Panthers. And for now, the Falcons, because of the record, I don't think the Falcons are that good. But the Cowboys are probably just going to, if they have Dak, they're going to win this game.
I'm going to even go out as far and say, if they don't have Dak, they can still win this game.
Oh, they definitely can.
Like, the Cowboys were able to win games with guys like Garrett Gilbert and Ben DiNucci. I mean, Cooper Rush is a guy who's been in this system for quite some time now. And I understand he's not, like, obviously,
But here's the big thing, though. Zeke is better than he was last year.
That is true. And Tony Pollard is someone who's not spoken about enough, but is a very solid contributor.
He's important for their offense.
Whole receiving core has been good. Obviously Michael Gallup's not back yet, and I think he'll be out this week. I do think he comes back next week, though.
Yeah, they opened up his window to come back.
Exactly. But this is something that you even brought up to me recently, is that Cedric Wilson has been solid.
Yeah.
He's been that number 3 receiver. These 2 tight ends are very much
especially Dalton Schultz.
Schultz, this is the guy who had to step up in the starting role when Blake Jarwin was out last year, and he's held it into this year. He is still the starter.
Yeah.
And fully deserving of it, too.
And back in the draft, there was they should draft Kyle Pitts. Well, because what else do they need? Well, they needed the corner, and they have Trayvon Diggs, who's picked off every single quarterback that he's faced this year.
And I see that continuing.
It definitely could.
So
he'll be shadowing Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen most of the game. He probably won't stay with one the entire game, but he'll kind of just move around.
No, with Trayvon Diggs, I've noticed a lot is that they keep him on the left side of the field.
Okay.
So it's really whatever receiver's there. And I could be completely wrong on this because I haven't paid attention to it too much, but it usually seems as though Jefferson's on one side of the field while Thielen's on the other. They don't usually put him on the same side.
No.
Because that opens up
unless it's a strange formation.
Again, yeah, unless it's a very, I'm not going to say complex, but a very situational formation. So, plus this Cowboys defense has been pretty good. Even without DeMarcus Lawrence, these linebackers have stepped up. So, I'm definitely taking the Cowboys. Although it could be a close game.
We're going to move to the trade deadline, which is on Tuesday of next week.
November 2nd?
November 2nd, I believe. Okay. And we're going to just look at some of the bigger names who could be dealt. Some honorable mentions you have.
I got a couple of guys. These aren't guys we're going to go in depth on because they're not as big of names, but guys like Marlon Mack, running back for the Colts, is one that's been talked about for quite some time. N'Keal Harry, wide receiver for the Patriots, is another big name. There are definitely – I don't know. I have no name specifically, but maybe a backup quarterback or two.
Nick Foles could go.
Nick Foles could go. Jacoby Brissett could be a name. That is if the Dolphins want to.
Who knows what's going to happen with the Dolphins?
Yeah,
especially with Deshaun Watson.
This Deshaun Watson move can really open up a lot. Another name I've heard I do want to mention is Kyle Fuller. I've heard a lot about him because of how deep that cornerback group is.
And he's been bad.
So they probably won't get much from him, but he's still a guy that could get traded.
Yeah.
Those are just a few names just to bring up.
So with Deshaun Watson, there was rumors going around that the Texans and the Dolphins are agreed on a trade that would send Deshaun Watson to Miami.
Yep. Although the trade...
but the trade will not go through until his legal situation gets resolved. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
I don't even think it's resolved. It could...
Until they get clarity on it.
Yeah, that's right. That was the word I was thinking of. Yeah, as long as they can get an idea of what's going on. And the trade details aren't out yet. We have no idea what's involved.
They want a truckload for him.
I'm assuming it's multiple first-rounders along with some players.
Maybe a couple defensive starters.
And one of those players is going to be Tua, and that's another guy we have on this list.
Yeah. Tua won't go to the Texans.
No, it's going to be a three. I'm not going to say. I don't think it's a 3-team trade.
But the Dolphins will trade Tua after they get Watson.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. And I'm going to just mention a few teams. If there's any other teams you want to throw in there too, obviously. But the Panthers, possibly. I'm probably not the Eagles, but I'm going to toss them in there because they seem to hate Jalen Hurts. And then the big name for me is Washington. Washington needs a young quarterback.
Denver might want one too.
That's a good team. Yeah.
So that's kind of our take on Deshaun Watson and Tua. We think Tua is either going to go to Washington or Denver, maybe Philly.
Washington
is most likely.
Washington is most likely. I also want to mention Carolina as well because I think Carolina is with the.
And they will not be trading for Watson.
Oh no, because Watson said he'd only waive his trade, no trade cost from Miami. So there's literally no other team that can get him except for Miami. Plus, again, the trade's already been agreed to. I'm willing to bet by the trade deadline it does go through, and if it doesn't, I'm gonna be surprised. I won't lie. So.
There was some rumors yesterday about 2 Bears players who could get traded. not necessarily that they're looking to trade them, but they're at least testing what value they have, and that's Allen Robinson and David Montgomery. Allen Robinson, you understand it just because he hasn't been the same player this year.
Not at all.
And he's not. He will not come back because he doesn't want to come back, and the Bears don't seem to have much
And the Bears, I hope the Bears won't want him back after this year, unless he was to somehow have like an immaculate second half.
Yeah, maybe the offense breaks out. Who knows?
Which would be crazy.
With Tevin Jenkins coming back, he's a good left tackle. He's a good rookie left tackle. And then the other one, which is a little more surprising, is David Montgomery. I understand Khalil Herbert's been good, but at the same point, you do want two running backs, and the Browns have shown that. You want two good running backs so you can keep rotating.
The Browns have shown that. The Colts have shown that. Other teams are looking for that right now. I mean, the Rams were another big team. Running backs by committee are coming back. You know, it was a big thing back in like the early, like late 2000s, early 2010s, you know, where, you know, a few teams would have these running back by committees. And then it kind of died down. And now it's coming back.
Patriots used it for a long time.
Patriots had it for a lot, and they were very successful. And I think a bunch of teams are following in that, which is funny because the Patriots really don't have that anymore.
No, it's mainly Damian Harris now.
And maybe Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah.
He's a rookie, which means that they haven't done it since before this year. But, I mean, another player to mention for the Bears is Akeem Hicks. I mean,
he could. I'd say it doesn't seem that likely, but I think that, especially with his injury concerns, I think that the Bears should look to move him, especially with Ball Nichols been playing good the past year and a half.
Oh, for sure. This whole Bears team, they're in and I probably don't know as much about this whole, you know, Bears stuff than you do, of course. But it really seems like, I don't know if they should be going in a full rebuild, and I'm not saying that at all.
No, because it seems like they have a lot of their pieces on offense.
Exactly, but there are also these pieces that I think makes sense to move and get draft capital, because you guys don't have much draft capital right now. So maybe trading an Allen Robinson, trading an Akeem
Get you an extra pick.
Yeah, I don't agree with trading Montgomery, just like you said.
No.
I think trading Tariq Cohen once he comes back.
If he ever comes back.
If he ever comes back, if it's even possible, because Khalil Herbert fits that role almost identically, and he's better, I'd say. So
we're going to move to Steelers edge rusher Melvin Ingram. You know, they signed him to be opposite T.J. Watt, but he's just been pushed to a backup role or a rotational role. So I don't know if this was one we'll go too in-depth on, just because he hasn't been playing that much, and I don't know if anyone's going to want him. He seems more like a cut candidate than a trade deadline piece, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, when he was signed, people right away thought he'll be the starter on the opposite side, and then not even a week later, it came out that the Steelers wanted to throw him in 50-50 snaps opposite of Alex Highsmith, and which made sense. And he's played really good. I can see where you're getting the idea of cut candidate, but it doesn't make sense to me at all, because he has been a solid rotational piece. And the other thing to mention with this is that the Steelers aren't they weren't looking to trade him. Teams were calling for him, meaning that they can definitely they can work up the value that they think he's worth, and they're going to ask for more than he's worth. Because if teams are wanting him, they can ask for more.
Yeah.
And if they can get more, go right ahead.
Yeah, they'll get the most they can for him.
Because Alex Highsmith is having a great year right now. And we have Steelers have a couple of guys in that depth, like a Jarvis Jones, who can be a solid rotational piece. And I'm not all in favor of send him off for nothing, but if you can get really good value, I'm not opposed.
Yeah. And the last one, and it kind of came back into like the past,
24 hours.
18 hours, is Brandon Cooks. They traded Mark Ingram, the Texans did, to the Saints. And, Mark Ingram is a big locker room guy. And, Brandon Cooks, the Texans, they want to build around Brandon Cooks in a way. Not build around him, but they want him to be a big part of their future. But I think for the right price, they'll probably trade him. He could go for a third or a fourth round pick, I think.
I honestly could see him even going for higher than that if a team really wants him, because there are a couple of receiver-needy teams. I've honestly thought about Cooks Robinson swap. Although I
don't see it happening, but
I don't either. But I thought of it as like an interesting thought. I mean, a team like Washington could really use another receiver. So maybe if they send a third/fourth rounder to get Brandon Cooks and bring him to Washington for Heineke, I would love that. I think that'd be such a smart move.
But it would make sense.
But I mean, like I can understand why he's upset because, like you said, Ingram is, and for his entire career, has always been that motivational, locker room spirit. He was like that with, he was with that with New Orleans originally,
and especially with the Ravens.
Especially with the Ravens, he started the whole Big Truz movement.
Yeah.
For Lamar, and I mean,
it's still around after he's been gone.
It's still around, and then he went to Houston, and he was just this past year, and he's been a big guy there. And now he's back in New Orleans, which is nice. But it makes sense to trade him too. Like it honestly made sense. They have Philip Lindsay, they have David Johnson, who actually hasn't played bad this year, and then they also have Rex Burkhead. Like they've got a bunch of guys.
Talk about running back by committee.
Exactly. So trading Ingram made sense. It really did.
And I think trading someone like Rex Burkhead or Philip Lindsay would make sense. No one's going to trade for David Johnson's contract.
Exactly. So trading it just came down to which guy they wanted to let go, and Mark Ingram is the oldest. And he has the least versatile skill set out of these guys.
Yeah, so he has some good speed.
And he's a great receiving back.
Yeah,
he is their receiving back. So, I mean, it makes sense. It sucks that it's going to affect Brandon Cooks. And honestly, I'm hoping he gets traded. He does not deserve to be on this team.
No, he can be a good contributor for a championship team.
He is an elite receiver. Or possible.
He has a chance to be an elite receiver.
Yes.
But no one else sees it. He gets traded a lot.
So, yeah. I think this is.
There could be some good, important players moved at the deadline, which is what we're really saying here.
Yeah, basically.
But that's going to be it for today's episode of the Play Action Podcast, presented by Warrior Student Media. I'm Brandon Smith. He's TJ Haas. Have a good day.
See you guys.